Hi, this is Muhammad Tuhami, and welcome to a new episode of the Chess Your Child show. In this show, I invite world class experts to show you how chess can be the ultimate character building tool for your child. And today I am with John Marble, an international chess coach. And John is part of iChessU coaching team. iChessU is the world's largest online chess school. And John specializes in coaching students. He coached over 400 junior players in California, and he has appeared in a number of newspaper articles in California because of his success with junior players. John has also had success coaching children with special needs, including bipolar disorder, attention disorder, and developmental disabilities. John, welcome to the Chess Your Child show.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about your story. When did you start playing chess, and how did it shape your character?
Well, I actually started rather late, so much of my character was already formed, but I actually almost had to start a new life for myself. In 1999, I had a stroke, and that stroke caused a number of problems for me, one of which was short-term memory problems.
Wow.
And while there were things that I could do for my physical issues, paralysis on my right side and things like that, what do you do for memory? And the people who were helping me with my physical therapy suggested maybe I try chess. And so I did. That's when I got started with chess. When you have something like a stroke, there is a complete change in your life and how your life is going to go in the future.
Yes.
And so those changes are things that you have to make adjustments to. And you learn, one of the things that I learned through chess was that I have a lot of other resources available to me than just what I had learned when I went to college or when I was growing up. This said, you know, you've got to be a little more creative about where you look to find resources so that you can have a fulfilling life in the future. So that's how chess really affected me. I used it mostly to help short-term memory problems, but it taught me some really important life lessons so that I didn't give up and just sit in my house by myself and eventually die of boredom. So,
wow, this is an inspiring one, an inspiring chess story, I believe. Wow. So, who had the most influence on your chess skills back then? Did you learn from books, or did you have a coach, or?
I started with books, and I did not have a lot of success. I reached a rating of about 1,000, and I just couldn't seem to go any further than that. It was like I had hit a wall, and a lot of people hit walls like that, especially if they're self-taught. Some of them are better than others, but the problem with books is they can't answer your questions, and they're not specific to you and how you learn. So I was playing chess online because at the time I was still going through a lot of physical therapy, and I wasn't employed. And while I was playing in an online chess tournament, a gentleman by the name of Alex Rabinovich was watching. He actually came on and watched my game. And when I finished the game, which I had won, and I was waiting for the next round to start, he started chatting with me through the online site there, and he asked me, you know, why do you play like that? And I said, well, I have short-term memory problems, and so I've kind of adapted the fact that I can't remember sequences and I can't remember where pieces are when I'm trying to calculate. So I do as little calculating as possible, and I play a style of chess that allows me to get away with that if I'm not playing someone really good. And he asked me how old I was. At the time, I was in my late 30s. I was well, actually, I was 40, and he said, he says you're way too pessimistic at that age. You're too young to be that pessimistic. So he said, I'll tell you what, I'll teach you, and he taught me for free. And so once a week, I would take these lessons from him. Now, Alex was an international master, and he was the world 20 and under champion. So he was a very good person to have to teach, and eventually I became better at chess, and I climbed pretty high. So I also started teaching, and when I started teaching, it was a few years later that it just became natural for Alex to hire me.
So this is Alex, the owner of IHSU, then?
Yes, that's correct.
Ah,
yeah.
Okay. Wow. So, based on your experience coaching students, what are the benefits of chess, especially for children, at playing chess at a young age?
Well, for the youngest children, some of the best benefits are, one, kids have to own up to their own mistakes. One of the hardest things for children to do is to admit that they actually did something wrong. Most kids will tell you, well, I let him win, which is not really true, but this is the only way to make themselves feel better, is to try and convince people that they let the other person win. It teaches them to take responsibility for their own mistakes. If I make a mistake, I did it. I need to own that. That's a very important part of life. We can't fix problems if we don't actually admit that we've got a problem and we've made a mistake, or that the mistakes are there and that they need to be fixed. And I love to use humor to point it out to kids, the mistakes that they've made, and they tell, or that they have other things like, well, this other, there was this other reason this person over here was chewing gum or something. And I always tell them, yeah, the last game I lost at chess, my shoes were tied too tight, So I'll use things like that to point out to the kids that they're not fooling me in any way. And then and when they realize that I'm not upset with them when they've lost, then suddenly it becomes okay to admit that they lost, and it was, the mistakes that they made. Mm-hmm. That's a big character builder. Yeah. That's a huge character builder right there. Yeah. The fact that we now understand that, we make mistakes and we can use our mistakes to learn, and then also it helps us understand how we are as people when we make mistakes and what we can do about it. One of the other things that chess does is it is one of the best problem-solving teachers in the world in history. I mean, one of the biggest things that we're going to have to look at is our next generation of children are going to be the ones who are going to solve the problems that when we pass away, they're going to have to fix those. And in many countries, and especially in the United States, one of the things that's happening is we're taking problem solving out of the school, and we're emphasizing memorization rather than actually learning how to solve a problem. We'll memorize, answers to questions like math. If we were to talk about math, we'll memorize times tables and things like that. But how do you apply everything in order to solve a problem? And that's a tremendously valuable skill, and for our future leaders, we're going to need people who can solve problems, be creative, think, use, what resources are there, and find, and how can we use them. And maybe they aren't going to be used in the way they've been used traditionally, but now they can be used for something else. I think that's probably one of the most valuable things that we can look at as far as chess is concerned. It certainly teaches logic. It is a very specific kind of logic. Cause and effect is, if I make this move, then he will make that move. So if this happens, then that happens. We can go ahead and extend it. So it has this ability to really enhance a child's ability to think things through, to be creative. And that's one of the reasons why I became so interested in teaching it to kids.
Oh, interesting. And you specialize in coaching children with special needs. And the interesting part, attention disorder and bipolar disorder, these are very severe cases. So can you give us like a case study of a student that you coached and before and after scenario?
I have well, one child that I can use as my own child. My own daughter. My own daughter was born autistic, and she's very high functioning, but she is autistic. And her mother and I were very sure that she was going to wind up spending her entire life living with us, especially by the time she was 13 years old. It was looking very sad that she probably wasn't going to be able to function outside our home with us. She has Asperger's syndrome, and she would leave burners on in the kitchen. She would leave things like liquid cleaners that were combustible out on the counter near, a range or what would be a hot surface if it were left on. So we were quite worried that she would not be able to function outside of our house, and we would have to be taking care of her, or at least make sure she was taken care of for the rest of her life. She was doing very poorly in school. She was about 3 grade levels behind other kids in her class, and as far as math and reading, things like that. She had a huge vocabulary, but her reading was recognition of words was very difficult for her. Along with the Asperger's syndrome, she had an attention deficit disorder problem where she could not sit and concentrate. Now, she was not hyperactive. She didn't have to run around and jump up and down and things like that. But it was very difficult for her to sit and listen to a teacher in class, or watch even a video in class. She couldn't sit and watch television for more than 15 minutes, which is, makes it very difficult for a child to pick up and learn. And she definitely had some neuromotor skills, because her autism was not caused by something she inherited. The cord was wrapped around her neck before she was born, and there was oxygen cut off to her brain for about 2 weeks before she was born. So that all of that caused some neuromotor skill problems. When she runs, her gait is very different and looks a little strange. And so being behind like that and being unable to concentrate, she just kept getting further and further behind in school. I had my stroke, and I started playing, and of course, as I said, I was playing online. And she would come home from school, and because I was doing physical therapy, I was not, and I was still recovering. I was not employed, so I would come home, and my job at home was to keep the house clean, make the meals for everybody, and to just pretty much take care of the house. And but that only filled so much of my day, so I would sit down and in the afternoons, and I would play chess. I had a computer in my bedroom and on a desk, and she would come in after school, and she would sit behind me on the bed and watch over my shoulder. And one of the things that I noticed was she would sit and she would watch, and she wouldn't walk away. She could stay and she could watch me play the game. Now, I didn't teach her the rules. All I did was just move the pieces, and eventually, and she kind of liked it because Dad lost. and that was fun for her because now Dad isn't perfect. But after a while, I was thinking she's got to be very bored. So what I would do is I would start to talk to her about what was happening in the game, and I would say, this is what this person is planning to do. I think that's what they're going to do. So I'm going to do these things here, and then we would, sometimes it was successful, and she would understand what I was doing, and she would see that I was, how I was reacting. Well, she started her second year of junior high school the next year. And a friend who was 1 year behind her was now in her school with her, and they would walk home from school together. And Amy, my daughter, they would have these long conversations as they walked home. Well, one day in September, because we start in August, one day in September, her friend said, "Well, I'm not going to be able to walk home with you because I'm going to go to the chess club." And Amy apparently told her, "Well, I can play chess." And so the girl asked her to come in and join the club with her. And I wasn't aware of any of this. And about a month later, Amy walked in, and she had a form, and she said, "Dad, can I play in a chess tournament?" And I said, "You want to play in a chess tournament?" I said, "Do you play chess?" And she says, "Oh, yeah, I play chess." I said, "You do?" And she said, "Yes, I play chess, and I'm in the chess club." I said, "You are?" And she said, "Yeah, I'm in the chess club, and they need me to play in this chess tournament because it's a chess team, and I'm the best player in the school." And I said,
"Wow,
you are?"
Wow.
So
wow.
Anyway, we went to the school the following weekend, and she was in the tournament. And sure enough, she was the best player on her team, and she had the best score, and she got the biggest upset in the tournament. So she was going to get a trophy. And I stood in the back, and a man came up to me and said, "I understand that you're Amy's father." I said, "Yes." And he says, "And you taught her how to play?" And I said, "Well, not really." And he said, "Well, I'm a teacher and I'm the advisor for the chess club, but I only know the rules. I don't really know how to play." He says, "Could you come to school and not really teach all the other kids?" And I said, "Well, I'm not doing anything else, so sure, absolutely, I'll come in." And eventually, the team was a very, very bad team. But by the end of the year, they were the second best team in the county. So they did do very well, and they got much better. The whole thing was, Amy, as a result of playing chess, from that day forward, we just decided she was going every month to chess tournaments. And what started happening was teachers were calling us and saying, "Is she on new medication? She seems to be able to concentrate more." And by the end of that year, she had caught up with the rest of her classmates. She was at grade level. In math, she was at grade level in reading, and she was able to concentrate in the science classes, and she was able to concentrate in the she was able to concentrate in her music classes. So she was doing much, much better, and by the time she entered what we in the United States call high school, she was up with the rest of her classmates her age. So that was probably, if I wanted to give a best example, I would say that is because after she graduated, she took what in the United States is called the ASVAB. It's an exam that is given here that you can take. You don't have to, but you can. It's administered by the military services here, and she got the third highest score on the ASVAB in our what we call a county here in California for that year, and the military services were chasing her all over the place because they all wanted her to come and work for them, and she eventually wound up in the Navy working on our fighter planes in our Navy, and so she lives independently. And she's as far as I'm concerned, she's an amazing child, and she's been able to overcome some very serious problems. She still has Asperger's. Her communication skills are strange by most people's standards, but she can function. She pays her own bills. She has a place where she lives. She is very, very successful as far as I'm concerned, and she happens to be one of my heroes. So,
wow, this is very inspiring. Isn't it amazing that you just connect your child to the magical world of chess and let chess do the rest? So
yeah, it is.
The game does the character building. The game does everything.
Yes, it is. It's the process of learning how to learn.
Yeah.
And that comes with chess. And she learned by sitting still and playing in chess tournaments. She had to, there was a half hour on each player's clock in the tournament, which meant that 5 times a day she had to sit still for as much as an hour. And so she began to realize that she could sit still and she could listen and she could learn and she could concentrate. And that translated in the classroom. She began to be able to concentrate in the class because she could do it now. She had practiced.
Yeah.
So that was one of those things that was really great. Now I've taught other kids with Asperger's syndrome, and his success was not as marked as Amy's, but he went from a special education class into the mainstream, so that he was taking classes with kids that were considered to be normal, and he never won until the very, very last match that he played. I included him on my teams because he showed up every single time to our practices, and even though he would never have qualified for the team otherwise, I brought him anyway because it was, in my opinion, it was important for him to be involved in a social environment with other kids, and also he was playing chess. He was actually doing something that exercised his mind. And when he won the very last chess match that he played with our chess team, he won. And you cannot imagine the tears in his parents when they found out that he won it, that he won the match. It was a very amazing moment. So it's exceptionally. You have to understand that in some ways this is selfish of me because I love the feedback I get when a child has that kind of success. It makes me feel really, really good. And when that kind of thing happens, it's really special. I've had a number of moments like that with kids that I've spent years with, and they do really well.
Yeah.
So,
what's the ideal age to start playing chess?
Well, you can't really do it by age. There is we have to do it by maturity. Some kids are able to sit still at 4. And other kids can't sit still and sit and listen until they're 6 or 7. I try to adapt with the younger children, the 4-year-olds and the 5-year-olds. I try to adapt the lessons to be only about 20 to 30 minutes long, because that's about as long as most of them can sit. But I have to say I've met a few exceptional ones that could sit longer. I still adapt it and make them shorter because I want the kid leaving wanting to do more.
Yeah.
Okay. As long as I don't want them asking, "When can I go? When can I go?"
Yeah.
Because then that makes chess a chore and it makes something that's not much fun and they don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But really and truly, if your kid can sit down with one toy and play with that one toy for 40 minutes to an hour, then that child is probably able to sit still long enough to take a chess lesson, as long as the lesson is adapted, for their, and is appropriate for their age. So I've taught a child who was amazing, who was 4 years old, and then I've taught children who didn't do anything till they were 7, but still became very good chess players.
Yeah.
So
You mentioned that it's important to find a place for chess in schools. How does that work? Shall it be like a fixed curriculum, or shall for example, a school can hire chess coaches to come and teach classes after the school hours, or what's the best way to integrate chess in schools?
oh, there are almost as many ways as there are schools. Here in the United States, chess is not as popular as in other countries. It's a popular game, but it's not as popular as it is in other countries. In Russia, it is a class that you take every day, okay? And the same in Israel. There are countries that, where it is very, very important, and they recognize it, and they actually send their kids to, to school. And the kids actually, one of their classes is that they take chess. Okay, Russia is probably the most famous for that, and they actually have classes that that the kids go to where they have an instructor who's been trained to teach chess. And so they leave their regular classroom to go there, and they take their chess lesson, and that's one 1 hour session, and then they come back and they go to other class sessions. I wish they would do that in the United States, and I think they ought to do that everywhere. Every country needs their brilliant scientists in the future. Every country needs somebody who's going to solve problems. And I really think that that's one of the fastest ways to get kids interested in solving problems. We in the United States generally have, because many of our families, both parents work, we have what they call after-school programs, in which the children after school will stay at school for another 2 hours until their parents can come and pick them up after they're off of work. Those programs vary from art to acting on a stage theater, or they go outside and they play football, or they're just, and some of them, they do their homework there, they have a tutor, and there are a number of schools that hire a chess coach, and he comes in, and the kids sign up for the chess after school program, and then they go into the classroom, and he teaches in the classroom environment. And that's the most common way in the United States that it is done. Either the school district pays for it, or the parents themselves pay for it. It just depends on how it's structured in that particular school or school district. I have chess programs. I have a partner, and we have chess programs in schools, and the parents have, we put out a flyer at the beginning of the year, and the kids take them home, and parents sign up for them, and the parents pay for their classes. They'll pay for like a couple of months at a time, and then they'll come in once a week. They'll take the class. It's an hour and a half. The kids play chess. They'll actually play games that are rated here in the United States by the United States Chess Federation, but they also get instruction. They learn all of the rules, and they learn it slowly. In a large classroom environment, we can't get very specific to one child's needs, but we can give them the basic ideas. And then if we pique the interest of a child, the parents then have the option of enrolling in their child in one of our programs that aren't held at the school. We have an office, and we bring them in, and they come in and they take more lessons, and it's very specific to their needs. Or they can take private lessons.
Yeah. And what's the ideal number of students in a chess class?
Well, some of that depends on how capable your instructor is. I prefer not to have more than 8, but when we talk about a school, you can have, I wouldn't want, in a school environment, I wouldn't want to have more than, say, 14 kids. If you're going to have a program where you have more than 14 kids, then you need another instructor.
Yeah.
You need to have more than two. Because not only are you dealing with just the sheer numbers and having to, pay attention to those kids and keep them, manage the classroom, but you also have to deal with the fact that there can be a very vast range of skill levels there. One child can have been playing for 2 or 3 years, and another child could have never played at all. And you need to be able to separate them, because the exercises for one child to do are very different from the exercises for the other. And you don't want the advanced child to be bored and quit, and you don't want the beginner child to not know what's going on, so they're bored and they quit. So you have to be able to cover that range of beginners all the way up to your advanced players. But yeah, I would not. Let's say all of the children are equal. I would still not want to have more than 14, and ideally 8 is great. Okay, 8 is wonderful, because then you've got 4 boards going and they're playing at the same time, and it's easy to manage.
Yeah. And what's your advice for parents who want to connect their children to the magical world of chess? Where's the starting point? How can they nurture the love for the game? Because I think not every kid will be naturally attracted to chess. So what can the parent does to...
Well, it helps a lot if the parent plays. Some of the problems that we as coaches run into is the parent doesn't play at all, and so they don't understand. And if their child doesn't appear to be successful at the beginning, they will tend to pull their child out right away, thinking that their child is going to suffer. Or if their child complains about losing, then they'll pull their child out right away. And losing is a part of life. We make mistakes, and when we make those mistakes, we need to be able to deal with them and learn from them. And if mistakes are not treated as tragedies or failures by parents and coaches, if they're treated as this is an opportunity to learn about something you don't know, you lost because you didn't know something, okay, or you didn't understand something, let's learn from it. Which is why I absolutely insist that all kids, as soon as they can write their moves down, okay, so that they can review the games with their coach afterwards. And so my advice for those parents is learn a little about chess yourself. And I do at some of our tournaments, I will do a session where I will invite parents to come in and take a free chess lesson as a group. But once they've become familiar with the game, they don't necessarily have to play in tournaments, but just become familiar with the way the pieces move and some of the basic ideas and strategies. Once they've done that, then go ahead and you then, of course, can demonstrate an enjoyment for the game. And if parents have an enjoyment for something, very often a child will want to be a part of that. And so they'll just form an interest as well. They'll sit and watch you play over the board or on the computer, as Amy did, and then they'll start picking up the pieces themselves and start moving. As soon as that happens, then they become connected. There are always, almost everywhere in the world, there are coaches available locally, and they advertise in many different places, the internet, or they'll advertise, at local schools or things like that, and that's a way. Barring that, if they can't find something that way, there is nothing wrong with the International Chess University for Children. It's very, very good. I teach a number of children through it. But really and truly, it's a rare child that learns from scratch over a computer. It's much better to have a person stand in person, okay, and teach them at least the basics. And then once the child is, understands the basic moves and things like that, if you want to go out and grab an international instructor like we have at ICHESU, that would be a way to do it. You can say, okay, now we're going to go to the next level. If you're really interested and you want to go to the next level, we can go ahead now and do it, because you have the basics down. So that's my advice. I don't know if IChessU would endorse that, but I think for learning the basics, it's nice to have a person there.
It's fair enough. Yeah, it's fair enough. I don't. Yeah. It's fair enough because they, from scratch, they need to feel the board and the pieces with their hands.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very difficult to have it like online lessons.
Right.
So
if I do teach a child, if I do teach a very young child, and they're learning from scratch, I will generally do it over Skype, but I'll actually have them set up a board next to the computer, and actually have them work with the board, and usually mom or dad are there and they set up pieces for them. So that's how I used to do it.
Yeah.
So
awesome. So at the end of this very inspiring interview, John, do you have a final quote that you would like to leave us with, the parents with?
I think there are a number of activities out there for kids to do. And I think as a parent, we need to be sure that the activities we choose are going to enrich a child's life for the rest of their life. The problem with large team sports, although I played them, is that most of them you're not going to play past the age of 25. And we all get overweight, or we all stop using our minds, we stop going to school. And without it, life isn't as nice as it should be. Chess, individual sports like tennis, golf, all of those make life something more than just, waking up every day and going to work. And things like chess will prevent, it's been proven to prevent things like Alzheimer's and other intellectual deterioration. So have something that your child can do all their life. And chess is certainly one of them. And so I encourage you to give it a try. It may not be successful with your child, but give it a try. There are others out there. Music is also out there. But chess is a really wonderful, wonderful activity, and it allows them to get involved with other kids their own age, and you can't beat it.
Wow. Thank you very much, John, for this rich and insightful tips. And I can't wait to have our next chess lesson together.
Okay.
I've tried your coaching style, and you are an amazing teacher. So thank you very much for spreading the love for the game. Your words will make a difference, I'm sure. And I hope more parents will be encouraged to enroll their children for chess classes very soon. Thank you, John, and have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.